It's funny how the first minute of Superman 78 is just a kid reading Action Comics #1. There isn't even a Superman on the cover. A movie that has the tagline, "You'll believe a man can fly," lets you know right away that none of this is real, all based on a 10-cent magazine you can buy at a bodega or newspaper stand. It almost feels counterintuitive, like the movie is shooting itself in the foot. Anyways, Superman 78, if you don't know for some reason, is widely regarded as a masterpiece. The superhero movie that laid the groundwork for every superhero movie since. Burton's Batman, Raimi's Spider-Man, even the Marvel and DC cinematic universes probably wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for the success of director Richard Donner's Superman the movie. As the dawn of a new superhero movie approaches the big screen with James Gunn's Superman, we're meeting a new actor taking on the role that he'll most likely have for a long time. While David Cornsweet looks like he has enough going on that differentiates himself from his counterparts, it's funny how when it came to creating the music and main theme for him, they chose that classic motif from 78. John Williams' score is iconic and all, but on the surface, the choice to bring it back feels odd. So why? Why is this movie revered? Enough to the point where almost 40 years later, the impact can be felt literally today. I haven't sat down and watched this movie in a while, and with how James Gunn himself brought a lot of how he felt watching it in theaters back when he was a kid into his version of The Man of Steel, I think a rewatch is in order. Maybe we can piece together what makes this movie so special for so many. Superman the movie's goal is to take the feeling of reading those comics about Superman to the big screen, to make you believe that a man can fly and how powerful and righteous he is. As a result, logic is thrown out the window, and not in the way that works all the time. The ending is weird, we'll get to that, but this rewatch made me realize how much the movie is operating on cartoon rules, leading to it feeling earnest in its presentation, but frustrated in some of its execution. Off the bat, after the opening titles, the first 30 to 40 minutes of this movie are super slow. I'm sorry, but Marlon Brando is the most stoic and boring Jor-El I've ever seen. And I'm not saying that just because he pronounces Krypton weird. At least Russell Crowe was acting in Man of Steel, the bleached white crystallized version of Krypton, with some impressive production design by John Barry and set decorator Peter Howitt, does all the heavy lifting, alongside John Williams' beautiful, mesmerizing score. Script-wise, it does a solid job getting across how Krypton was destroyed, and the idea of Kal-El being this hope for humankind, the last son of Krypton, you get it. In the age where origins are not that important anymore in superhero adaptations, kinda freaky seeing it again. Once we get to Kansas, the movie does pick up. The sweeping plains of Smallville really allow cinematographer Jeffrey Unsworth to shine here. Smallville just feels like home. We spend a long time with young Clark, played by Jeff East, but dubbed over by Reeves. Nowadays, one could argue that this section is padding out the runtime for no reason, but again, this was the first movie. Give it some slack. The Fortress of Solitude looks amazing, and once again, I can't say it enough, John Williams' score is just iconic, simply the best, never been topped. Now that we have a proper introduction of Christopher Reeve, it cannot be understated how amazing he is as Superman. His Clark feels like a fish out of water, going from the tranquil fields of Smallville to the bustling city of Metropolis, without getting too bumbly and annoyingly simple. Meanwhile, his Superman is statuesque and Herculean-like while being gentle and kind. Both halves of this character are played almost perfectly by Reeves and grounds Superman, showing that despite having the powers of a god, he's still a man and chooses to be a hero. Which is impressive, since it's almost an hour into the film before he even does Superman stuff. Everyone talks about the interview scene between him and Lois, and we'll get to that later, but I think the montage of Superman stopping crime and saving the cat from the tree is what makes him the definitive Superman performance. Truly wears his heart on his sleeve. Speaking of, Margot Kidder as Lois Lane is also as amazing as Reeve is for Superman. Her quick-wit city-life personality and Clark's country boy bumpkin clash well without making it feel like she treats him poorly, just inexperienced. The constant typos are funny, and how she just glides around the Daily Planet set without losing a beat is insane. She paved the groundwork for a Lois Lane that is fast on her feet and also a journalist at heart. Much has been said of the rooftop interview between her and Superman. It's an amazing scene that does so much with so little. The chemistry between the two stars is palpable. You can feel the attraction between them, and how Lois starts to warm up and understand who Superman truly is. Accompanied by Williams' beautiful love theme, Kidder elevates every Lois scene and almost stands toe-to-toe with Reeves. It's unfortunate that she is kind of a damsel in distress, where she doesn't get out of situations without Superman having to save her, but at the same time, how the hell is Lois supposed to escape falling out of a helicopter or getting crushed under the earth? Ride her way out? Can she do that? Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor is interesting. It's like he's simultaneously doing a great job and phoning it in. His scenes are mostly slapstick comedy with Miss Tessmacher and Otis, leading into the cartoony villain character type you would find in the classic newspaper comic, complete with the colored suits and wigs. Lex's evil schemes being real estate fraud is simple enough for a kid to understand, but also harkens back to Superman's champion of the oppressed image, where his villains for a bit were bad landlords and societal issues at large. This version of Lex does feel like a double-edged sword. For the movie itself, they do a good job getting Hackman to go full camp, but nowadays Lex Luthor is a much more interesting character, with performances that have been topped. I think the comics and Smallville's Lex have done so much with the character to give him these complex layers and depth, and Hackman feels flatter in comparison. It's something outside the movie's control though, so for now what we have here is pretty good for the times. As a whole, Superman 78 is a really good Superman movie, but it does have some faults. Like I said, the objective of this movie is for you to get Superman. The character is pretty much nailed here. You do get who Superman is and what he represents. I was shocked at how well most of the flying effects hold up. Some compositing here and there, but the wire work still amazes me to this day. It's so smooth, and Reeves hides what I assume is an uncomfortable rig very well. If I haven't said it enough, the score for this movie is simply incredible. That main theme is Superman. Much like Danny Elfman's Batman theme has just stuck with the character since the pair were matched, both invoking what makes these characters revered for ages. Okay, the ending. We have to talk about it. On the surface, it makes no sense. Traveling so fast you go back in time? Sure, why not? Barry needs the Speed Force to do it, Superman can just do it, whatever. Time traveling by reversing the Earth's rotation? Nonsense. You could make the argument that he's just going fast and the Earth rotating the opposite way is just a visual bit, but even then this raises a ton of questions. Why can't you travel back in time to save Pa Kent? Krypton? Any natural disaster? Maybe a World War or two that happened? However, I must concede, I do get why the movie makes this choice. If you want your audience walking away from this movie truly believing in their hearts that a man can fly, that Superman is this paragon of goodness, fighting for truth and justice, if he can and will do anything to save you, then it works. A bit extreme maybe, but it's Superman, not Flying Man. Why can't he turn back time? Just this once. For us. Superman 78 opens with a kid reading an action comic, narrating over the opening pages of the book. Specifically, he reads the passage. In the decades of the 1930s, even the great city of Metropolis was not spared the ravages of the worldwide depression. And at times of fear and confusion, the job of informing the public was the responsibility of the Daily Planet. Superman 78, in a way, is about Superman existing during these strange and unsettling times, being a beacon of hope to others. You see his home planet destroyed, his childhood in Smallville, losing Pa Kent, discovering who he was meant to be, falling in love, standing up for his values and beliefs. He's a good man first and foremost, then a god. We believe a man can fly, but we understand why he flies. This movie works because it is a character piece about Superman and why he's someone that should inspire others to do good. That's part of why I'm excited for James Gunn's take on the character. Say what you will about how he has a habit of taking obscure comic book characters and doing something different with them, but his films are first and foremost about the characters. Guardians 1 opens up with Peter Quill losing his mom. Guardians 3 has an entire opening shot dedicated to a talking raccoon thinking he's a freak. He even made an entire show just about Peacemaker because he found the idea he had about the character that important to tell. He doesn't just make content, he wants to get you to care as much as he does about these stories. If he goes through the trouble of directing Superman, arguably his highest profile work so far, it's because Gunn found an in with him that he feels he can only deliver. End of the day, these movies will come and go. This new Superman could be in an overstuffed mess trying to set up a new cinematic universe. Or it could be topped by whoever comes next. I'm sure regardless, they will look towards this movie for inspiration. And you know what? That's kinda cool.